Recorded.
All right. One sec. Hold on. All right, guys. So I'm writing a book on sales, a couple books. But on this one I'm writing, there's this section called superhuman selling, and I want to break this down for you guys. Okay, it's like that 1% edge that very few people talk about. And that 1% edge, I want to dissect a couple principles within that oftentimes get overlooked. Okay. So this is like that nose. Brian Tracy talks about the nose of a difference between like first and second place. It's usually a couple milliseconds in difference. So it's like 98% versus 99% is several $1 million in earnings. Okay. For salespeople, the minor small things can make the biggest difference. And I'm going to be talking about 4 principles: the power of perspective, adversity, the advantage of adversity, the magic of momentum, okay, and the power of empathy. So I want to hit on all those, but those are the 4 things of like what makes superhuman salespeople, okay. And then competition is another edge, okay. It's just competing. The one I want to kind of dive into first, and part of empathy, I want to hit on one of our training videos. It's called the stereotypical salesperson. If you guys haven't watched that, watch that video. I break down like Jeremy Miner's whole thing on what creates the greatest salespeople's sales training is asking better questions. And basically, if you guys have been through his program, it's to summarize, it's don't come off as every other salesperson. And when door-to-door sales, any virtual sales, phone sales, like your biggest enemy is coming off as a salesperson. If they can see you as a messenger, as a friend, consultant, it's a different story. Okay. It's much easier. I don't care how good you are at selling. It's an uphill battle. It's infinitely more difficult to sell somebody if they perceive you as a salesperson. So I want to dive in first with the magic of momentum. Okay. I've learned this over and over again. Okay. If you guys haven't listened to my podcast, 20K to 200K a month, go listen to it. It's about 20 minutes of me just ripping on this principle as well. And in specific scenarios that I'm not going to cover on this mastermind. Okay. And just a reminder, stack up your guys' questions in regards to what we're talking about, or if it makes you think of something else, that's welcome. Okay. But in regards to momentum, let's talk about expectations and goals. Okay. When you go into a summer, into a season, into a year, or even into a week, more so like a long-term season, okay, several months or a year, anytime I'm going into something, even at expertise level, I give myself a buffer. Okay. For those of you who have done the playbook, you guys know what we're talking about. We're going to kind of deep dive on this principle a little bit more. Okay. The buffer and, your sales trajectory. This also resets every single day. It's not just a month to month of like, hey, in one month, I'm going to do 10 sales and then next month, 15 and then 20 ramping up. Right. That's one, but also on the day-to-day level. Okay. Whether you're prospecting, setting appointments, or self-genning in solar, whatever you're doing, or selling pest control or any industry. Okay. There's momentum that resets daily, and understanding that and leveraging it to your advantage is massive. Okay. So one thing I want to illustrate is when I sold pest control, I set the record at the time and sold 27 accounts in one day. It was not accidental. It was pre-planned. And if you look at my phone, when I had my phone, I had a screenshot of an Apple Note from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. every hour and how many sales I was going to get. The first, however many hours that is, what is that? That's 13 hours, I believe. Sorry, 12 plus 3 is 15 hours. Okay. If you look at the first 10 hours, so about 75 or 66% of my day, I was at about 45 to 50% of the sales volume for the day. It was about 40 to 45% at 66% of the way through the day. Okay. 10 hours into the day. And those last 5 hours is when I popped off the other half of the sales for 2 reasons. Obviously, more people are home, but momentum. Now, understanding this, I've learned this from Chris Crone, other very successful people. By the way, I'm podcasting with him today. If you guys want to ask questions, put them in the chat and I'll look at them after and potentially ask Chris those today. But these guys reverse engineer everything. with their time, their earnings. They know their earnings per hour. You have to know the stats of what you set 1 in X people you talk to. You sell 1 in X people you talk to. Now that can be detrimental. And you guys know this. If you're going out and saying, hey, I set 1 in 6 people I talked to, or I sell 1 in 15 people I talk to, and you go talk to 15 people and you don't get a set and you start getting upset with yourself, we have a problem. Okay. I don't know those numbers to hold myself like to the standard that I'll get it. If anything else, I just know, hey, on average, after I talk to hundreds, it'll even out to that. Okay. Just like rolling the dice. With that, I've talked to you guys about this analogy. I have a dice on my desk. It's a 20-sided dice. And if we pick a number 1 through 20, let's just say it's 20. I roll that dice 20 times and I don't get a 20. I'm not going to get butthurt about it. Okay. I know that, hey, that's not my fault. It's not the dice's fault. It's just probability. Now, could I just nod or shake your head, guys? Could I nod that dice? Could I roll that dice 60 times or 40 times and not get a 20 once? Yep. Do I look at the dice and say this piece of shit's flawed? No. Okay. If you understand, you're just going to keep rolling it. You might get a little flustered, but detaching yourself from that expectation is huge. Now, going back into this, okay, I see people make this mistake. They become a 1 in X person. And then when they start, like, they get 1 in 10. And this is where the momentum can actually cripple them, okay, where they start expecting to get a sale after talking to X amount of people. I always give myself the buffer every single day. Although I know I set about 1 in 4 to 1 in 5 people I talk to in solar, I start out with the expectation of about 15 to 20. I'm not just buff it up to 6 or 7. I like triple or quadruple that number. Okay, you guys probably understand why I do that, because pressure will kill you. The more pressure you put on yourself to perform, the poorer you'll perform. Okay. And that doesn't mean you want to, yeah. When you practice, you role play, you train, okay? You release pressure because you're more confident with delivering. You can focus on people, which allows you to talk, empathize, which is the other superpower of selling, okay? But with that, every single day, you need to know your KPIs every day, every week to hit your targets, okay? We always talk about input over output. Input is doors knocked, decision makers, people pitched, okay? Output is a set appointments, closed deals. We track religiously in our organization. If you have a coach or an accountability coach, you track religiously your inputs. We also track the outputs, okay? But the reason we focus this is because the more we focus on what we can control, this is the principle, the more in control we feel, and therefore the more confident and the momentum builds, okay? So what happens, guys, when I started that pest control day at selling 27 accounts, I already knew the process, right? At the time, I was selling 1 in 6 people I talked to. When the day started, I started out about 1 in 12, 1 in 15. Now, an average rep starts getting discouraged. They say, I'm a 1 in 6. What's going on? I must not have things going in my favor. And then they take the gas off the pedal. They start getting in their head, okay? But because I gave myself the buffer of 15, 16, and I got it in 12, I'm like, I'm winning. Do you guys see the difference of the positive mindset I put myself into? And then guess what happens as the day goes? That ratio drops. The only thing that's stopping us from getting more sales and more appointments set is time. That's it. I mean, if we had more time to get in front of people, we would have a 50-day. Okay. We've all raise your hand if you guys have seen the power of momentum on a day-to-day level of like you're catching fire. Who's seen that? Okay. So it's real. And the best way I describe, I'm trying to teach you guys how I do this every single day I go out. Also, I don't ride the solar coaster or the sales coaster, right? I'm consistent because I stay level with my mindset. I don't get too high. I don't get too low. When I make 30,000 in a day, it's cool. I'm done. I get hard on myself thinking I didn't talk to enough people. I didn't knock enough doors. So tomorrow's likely going to be a 1 or 2 or 0. That's my mindset. Okay. I'm obsessed on the controllables. Okay. So what I'm trying to teach you guys is the momentum on a day-to-day level and how it stacks. So why do we knock doors? Why do we prospect before peak hours? Like in the morning and early after, like morning time for cold calling's prime, right? And for door knocking, evening's prime. Now, what I noticed running my own pest control company, when I go out for 3 hours, I'd still do well. But if I had knocked just 2 hours before, even though it wasn't prime time, those last 3 hours, I would usually do 2 to 3x just because I got the momentum started. Okay. It's a wild principle that you can you can leverage. Okay. And so I see I was talking to somebody, I can't remember who, I think it was someone on this call, maybe Olin or Robert, uh, or maybe Brock is one of your clients, but they were basically talking to 9 people a day, or sorry, sorry, it was the guy I podcasted with yesterday. He consults real estate agents. Okay, this guy went door to door with the same processes that we know. He's going to be a guest on our next mastermind. I can't wait. Guys, he made $500,000 in real estate sales as an agent when most agents make less than 20K their first year. He made $500,000. And guess how he did it? Door to door. He controlled his success. Okay. But he's followed the same principle that we're talking about of building this momentum. But give yourself the buffer, take the pressure off, and increase the inputs. Okay. I want to share with you guys really quick. I'm going to go, so hopefully you can see this TV. I want to share this real quick. We should have a PDF of this in our course. And if we don't, Josh, we're going to add that soon. But there's a video explaining this. Okay. This is
I
the,
joined it right now.
go
There's
ahead.
only-
Oh, sorry, Oscar. Oscar, you have a question? Okay. So right here, this is for solar. This is for pest control. I want to explain this really quick. Okay. I think we got a lot of solar people on this call, so I'm just going to show this. But basically this top part, can you guys see that all right? Kind of. Yeah. Okay. So this top part right here, this is the skill. On the left half, you have poor skill. On the far right, you have really talented. Okay. So they set 1 in 30 people they talk to. That's if you suck, it's okay to suck. And then that's 1 in 5. They set 1 in 5 people they talk to. You're a freak. Okay. Work ethic low, work ethic high. Notice it's not doors knocked, it's decision makers. Okay. 20 decision makers, low work ethic, high work ethic, 60 per day. Here is what they do per day on average. Okay. This is showing the law of averages played out with the numbers game. Okay. And here's the earnings typically per month in this industry, right? For these guys. Now, what's cool is that this shows that, hey, you don't have to be a master of just skill. And that's a message to Jeremy Miner. I love him, but it's not just skill. When we're in industries like this, where we cold call prospect, you can control more and put in more inputs. And when you do, you also build momentum and your close rate drops. Okay. So this gets refined over seasons. Part of our training is to refine your guys' skill set. Okay. And, but also increase your work ethic. So these are the three pillars we've talked about this. I think it's kind of hard to see, but increase efficiencies, effort, and education. Okay. Education is your sales training, efficiencies, the time management, and then effort is just your input number of people to talk to. But and we have this for pest control too. So sorry I didn't show that for you guys, but anyways, so the other thing with setting goals for the summer and seasons, okay, is understand the seasonality. This, like for a lot of us in the summer sales industry, majority of the income should come in the summer. Okay. And momentum builds up with that. So a guy wanting to do, let's say 30 solar deals in March or in May, if he or she does 20 in April, their odds of doing 30 to 40 drastically increase for May. Okay. So this builds day to day and week to week and month to month. And then the question comes of burnout. Okay. Because I can beat guys where, if I'm doing 30, 35 deals a month, I don't burn out. But it's because I got all the other systems in my life dialed in. Okay. And I'm not running from stuff. And so that's important that you guys play the marathon with that. All right. But you should have your goals blocked off for each month and be able to say, hey, am I on pace for the target? And it's like, for example, let's say we're selling for 4 months and it's like, I want to hit 100, whatever, 100K, 100 deals. that would say, hey, with 4 months, most people would say I have to do 25 a month. I would say no, especially for rookies, especially for new guys. You would start out actually at about 15K a month, or 10 to 15K, or 10 to 15 deals, and then 20, and then 25 to 30, and then 35 to 40. That's how it works. Okay. So that's the law of momentum, guys. Any questions on that before we jump into the power of empathy? Anything, guys, on the numbers, momentum, targets, weekly targets, monthly? Okay. So the other aspect to the superhuman selling, guys, is empathy. All right. This is where I get very flustered with sales trainers like Grant Cardone, Andy Elliott, is there's virtually zero empathy with how they train and communicate and sell. It's purely aggressive tactics. Okay. And everyone here on this call, we all relate on this principle, which I love. And this is what we're building a community around, guys, is winning more people, persuading more people to something that we're sold on. Okay. And doing it in a way that is genuine and win-win. And here's what I've learned is people would see me sell and be like, dude, he must be so aggressive, like with how much he sells. I'm aggressive with my mentality. I'm aggressive with my work ethic. Okay. And when it comes to certain points of closing, when it's a win-win and they understand that there's a relationship, yeah, I can be very confident. Okay. But I walk away from deals all the time. So if you understand the process, and you don't need to strong arm people into deals, you guys know that. Now with this, there's the true power of empathy comes from putting yourself in someone's shoes. Okay. You can't do that if you guys are attached to the result of getting the sale. You cannot leverage the power of empathy and the power of connection and selling at a high rate. When you can completely divorce yourself from the result of getting a deal closed, you're able to connect with that person at another level. And I don't care how successful we are, this was always a skill you have to remind yourself of. Okay. To this day, I find myself before going into deals, reminding myself, hey, detach, Nick. We're good either way. And part of the way I do that is I'm looking at my next appointment. Okay. As I'm going to an appointment, I'm already got my eyes and heart on the next one. I'm ready to go. Okay. And just that mindset alone, as you lean out, you guys know this, people lean in. The more desperate you come off, commission breath, okay, needy, the more they're like, whoa, we need to shop. We don't trust this guy. I'm good, right? Sales resistance, barrier goes up. But Brock, a lot of the guys here have shadowed me, Josh, Jaden, the amount of pullbacks I use in telling people that I'm good, I don't need your business. Like I do it all the time. And like Brock, how many times do you think I use that pullback of, hey, I'm good, like you can kick me out anytime, or any form of that?
I think within the closing process, you probably hit on that probably 20 times in an entire closing process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And it's one thing, there's a few things you can't overdo in sales, smiling, telling the prospect you don't need the deal. Okay. You can't overdo that. And they'll feel the energy too. It's you communicate that with your words, but they also feel it. Okay. And I'll communicate with my body language. I'll almost lean out sometimes, like I'm good. Just tell me when you want to kick me out. And then coupling it with things like, hey, I don't want to get your hopes up. I'm happy to help, but I have no expectation of this working out for you, but happy to help if it does. I'm a facilitator. I'm a coach. I'm a consultant. Okay. Um, and I want you guys to completely, like, we need to band together as brothers. We need to delete the mindset of master closer and becoming master communicators. Okay. I think Jesus Christ was the best communicator on the planet ever in history. And he won over people, okay, without coercion or force. And he was phenomenal with asking questions. If you look at how he taught his parables, he told stories, he asked questions. Okay. and he got people to feel what he was talking about. He never just told them the answers. He made them internalize by teaching them, right? What we're doing is we're master communicators, not master closers. We're teaching people. I actively tell people, I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm here to teach you about two options you have. Okay. And what you're doing right now is one option. In some lights, it's perfect, but in a lot of lights, it doesn't make sense when you compare it to the other option, right? So, and when you teach people more about the pain, guys, their desire for gain, aka to buy or change, is a lot greater. So focus on the pain. Don't try to sell. If you feel like you're like selling, or they're like, hey, like I'm good, they're pulling back. What I do is like, dude, sell me on what you're doing. Okay. Sell them on solar, have them sell you on the utility. They're paying 100% interest. They're throwing their money away and it's going up with inflation. They have zero control. Sell me on that. Okay. Solar's a lot of cons, but last time I checked, it has a hell of a lot less cons than that option. It's just they're defaulted into it. They're just going. But when they take a step back and like, hey, here's the system. Here's a monopoly. Here's the billionaires making money on the utilities. Like, you're like, whoa, okay, you're right. This is a point. Okay. In pest control, for me, it was like, hey, the do-it-yourselfers are the hardest people to sell. But I'm a guy who values my time. So I came in strong with those people saying, dude, you're so proud that you're doing this, but like you're wasting your time that you could be, even if you're like, I got time to spare, you could spare it with your family, your kids, if it's not even your work. Okay. A lot of guys say, I got the money, I'm good. Even if I want to put it, I want to do it myself. Help people understand the problem more than the solution. Okay. So empathy is something I use even on the doors. Okay. I'm very confident in my demeanor in communicating when prospecting, cold calling. My energy is very high. When I'm in appointments and consulting, it's a little bit more mellow. It's conversational 50-50. On the doors, it's more like a 80, 85, 15, 85 me, 15 them. Okay. And so, but with that, when I find opportunities to like they bring something up, I drop everything and I show I'm invested in you. Okay. So detaching yourself from the result is the huge secret there. Okay. And then here's how you also know you have the conviction and you're sold. And we talk about this, the personal development, people passion, and then product knowledge. Okay. All three is what create this conviction of being sold. And the more sold you are, the easier it is to sell people and the more sold they'll get. Okay. You'll sell to the degree that you're sold. But when you, what was I going to say? When you have the ability to truly empathize and you're sold on your product and you don't get a deal, okay, here's how it's the next level, is you feel genuine sorrow for people who don't qualify. Okay. They don't buy. You're not getting hurt. You're not throwing a pity party for you. You're feeling genuine remorse for them. When people tell me on the doors, hey, Nick, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I don't have, like, it's like, we're good. I'm so sorry. Even though they're being nice to me, I cut that and I say, don't say sorry to me. I'm not the bigger loser here. Okay. And I'm not doing that necessarily to try to convince them back because I know it's not going to go anywhere half the time. I'm doing that to protect my conviction internally. Okay. I'm not the bigger loser. And that I always talk about that. We don't say that in an arrogant tone, but in a confident tone to guard your conviction. If you have the cure to cancer, guys, and people reject you, you're not going to say, crap, well, this isn't the cure. All right. So actively resell yourself. We were just talking about this on this last podcast, the power of positive self-talk and affirmations. The best salespeople sound like crazy people. They're talking themselves all these mantras in between all the rejection. Because if you don't, your brain's going to pull you down fast because there's so much rejection you're dealing with. Okay. So that's empathy. That's how you know you're really in it for your prospects. Okay. My biggest year, I talked about this in the 20K to 200K a month podcast. I wrote out on the board on my wall, guys, on my wall, I put this huge piece of paper. I said, net worth change for my prospects. So instead of commissions made, all the deals I got, okay, I put net worth tracking. That's how obsessed I was about my client success. And think about that. When I go home and I look at that, I go to bed and look at that and I write it down. I remember coming home making $30,000 and then writing those down on the wall at like 10:50 at night. waking up at 5, 6 a.m. the next day. And I see that same thing. Think about the energy when I communicate to people, like what my true intent, they feel something different. Okay. Now, when you couple that with prospecting and that momentum, if you have a high amount of people in your pipeline, their energy you have is completely different. Okay. So I want to kind of tie those in together with the appointment scheduling and this 1% edge of prospecting. Okay. Um, if you offered me a salary, like let's say Microsoft, they're in the same building as us, they said, Nick, we'll pay you $1 million to just be a sales rep here. And we're just going to give you leads, but there's no way for me to prospect. I say, no way in hell, I'm out. Okay. Because I can't control my success. And then I'm going to be put in a manipulative situation where I feel pressed to close people. I won't do it. So how you offset this and don't come off as salesy, because you can't force anyone to buy, and you don't have to, guys. What you can control is getting in front of more people. And the irony and the magic behind this, there's a science about this. When you get behind more people and you have more work and you've got more on the calendar, everybody you're talking to, their buying goes up because of urgency and scarcity. It has nothing to do with tax credits. It has nothing to do with net metering going away. It has nothing to do with the truck being in the area, although that's huge for pest control. Okay. It's the fact that you are now limited because you just worked your ass off. Okay. The harder you work, the less calendar spots you have. The less calendar spots you have, guess what? Everybody's buying temperature goes way up. That was the biggest phenomenon I noticed going from 20K to 200K a month. Guys, I about doubled my work ethic. But this was the phenomenon, and also not like telling customers, I'm going to be here at this time. I gave them a huge window. I'm going to be here between 6 and 8 p.m. You adjust to me. I'm not adjusting to you. I'm busy. I'm in demand. You're lucky to be talking to me. That's one of my most like reinstated affirmations. Okay. And some of the guys that shouted at me like, dude, it's so funny. He's like, it's so confident, maybe egotistical. No, it's not. It's not ego. It's not even confidence. That's actually empathy. Okay. For other people, I understand the value of what I'm bringing them, and they're lucky to have the opportunity. I go into these solar deals, I'm changing their net worth by 6 figures. Okay. A lot of them. And I'm taking their tax credit, teaching them how to make 400 a month with that tax credit, which is usually 4 times what their freaking electric bill is. And I'm doing it while leveraging OPM, a term that billionaires use. These people have no clue about. Okay. My perspective and how sold I am is another level. Okay. So people are lucky to talk to me. Why we push personal development, guys, and developing yourself, learning new things every day, hitting the gym, growing yourself, that discipline. There's a different nature to you and how you communicate, and people sense it, and they give you more time. Okay. And they're bought in. They're more bought in. Okay. You could take Brock and then just someone else and have the same sales ability, but just because Brock is a creature of discipline, there's a respect that people have just looking at him. Okay. And so this is why I push you guys to develop in other areas of your life. Okay. And that information, that extra information, as long as you're disciplined, if you're studying new things about your industry and sales training, but you're not really increasing your work ethic or you lack the discipline, that's a mindset and a discipline thing. Okay. Not a motivation. Nobody relies on motivation. I don't. So it doesn't matter how smart you are, how good you are, if you don't have the discipline. Okay. And I know a lot of you guys on here, Robert's a great example, or has the humility to say, hey, dude, I need an accountability coach, and I already understand the game of the numbers, and I just need to like be pushed with this a little bit, you know? So, props to you guys for that. That's huge. So anyways, does that make sense with what I'm talking about on the law of momentum, empathy, and then your calendar and urgency and how they play together? Okay. I literally show people my calendar. Okay. We have a situation tonight where I'm very confident with Brock going to close a few deals, and he's stacked to the brim. Okay. I'm taking the night off with my boys. I teed off some appointments for Brock, and what happened? We have no expectations. If he gets zero, we're happy, right? No deals. But just going into it, his close rate organically, because his calendar stacked, will be higher. It's a natural phenomenon. Case study, Black Friday, right? Black Friday is a limited deal for a limited time, and everyone's fighting over the same thing. If there was no urgency, okay, if Black Friday deal was 3 weeks, it wouldn't be the same thing. but it's Black Friday, one day. Okay. So what to teach you guys like how far I take this, when I'm self-genning in solar, I'll literally book appointments 2 days out to get this momentum. So I won't even set appointments for that day or the next day. I'll book out 2 days so I can build up momentum to just stack that calendar. So that when I go into that day, rather than going in like 2 appointments every day, I'll go into like today's Tuesday, I'll go into a Thursday or Friday with just 8 stacked appointments. And I only have time to potentially qualify 4. Okay. On the high end. So I literally go in saying, I don't have time. I've got to kind of pick and choose between you and another family. And then I tell them, hey, look, if you guys don't qualify, that's okay. I'm good. I lean out. And if you guys don't want this, I'm good. I lean out. I don't need this. But I have a duty to help other people get this program. I'm the gatekeeper. And if you guys are going to pull time from other people qualifying, we got a problem. So I stand my guard, tell them where I'm at. Okay, that's just the blunt and the bold side that comes out. Is this me being a jackass? No. It's actually me saying, hey, I want to help serve other people. I want to help you guys, but I'm not here to waste my time nor yours. So let me give it to you dry. People love that. Okay. So you guys understand how this calendar stacking can be leveraged to your advantage. Okay. And this applies to a lot of things, a lot of things. Okay. Yeah. Um, the other things I want to talk about is the power of perspective and the advantage of adversity. Um, these are like fuel, for you guys wanting to hit another level. We all have adversity, and we're all these principles are things of like what's that 1% that just gets these guys to another level. That's what we're talking about, guys. Okay, these things stack on top of each other. We all have adversity, and to different degrees. Okay, but that adversity is a gift if seen in the right lens. Okay, I'm divorced with 3 kids. My biggest years have been post-divorce. I've channeled the pain into healthy avenues to fuel me, okay? Because I decided to see things differently. That perspective is a choice. Every single day, this is the beauty of our industry and sales, is that we are faced with so much negativity, okay? But how we choose to see it is up to us. And this is what builds phenomenal leaders. Some of the greatest business leaders of all time have come from our industries, okay? And it's because it's your choice. You can let it break you or let it make you. Okay. Your setbacks are, if you see them right, are your setups. You just need to see it that way. So I wear this thing on my wrist that says show up, and the other side says everything goes my way. Every time somebody shuts me down fast, what's my mindset, guys? It's not, oh, woe is me. Damn, I didn't even get a word in. It's hell yeah, he just saved me time so I can go find somebody that's better qualified. I get excited, right? I find reasons every day to get excited. If it's snowing, I'm like, hell yeah, there's nobody out here. I'm gonna get ahead. Every set I get, we're getting ahead. Okay. If I talk to somebody, the worst thing you can do is waste your time and energy with somebody that doesn't qualify or doesn't buy. Okay. People telling you no is good. People wasting your time because you let them is not good. Start defending your time. People will treat you better. Okay. When I set appointments versus other guys setting appointments, the main difference, guys, is the respect people have. I walk into laydowns if I set them, and if our people set them right, I walk into laydowns. But the expectation communicated up front that we're not here to bend over to you. It's kind of the other way around. I got to fit you in. Again, this whole thing, this urgency of we're booked. You talk, and then when you still go out and prospect more in between, oh my gosh, it's lights out. Okay. That's what I do. I create this frenzy fire, okay, by building all these logs. I throw all these logs and appointments on my calendar, and I light a match, and I go into the day, and then I don't let it burn out. I keep throwing logs on, and it just burns down to everything, okay, in a good way. Okay, so stack up the logs, guys. A lot of guys throw on one log, light a match, and let it burn. I'm dumping logs. I see where it's going. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to stack logs for 1 or 2 days, light the match, and then go. And then we're going to keep throwing logs on the fire. Is this making sense? Okay. So scarcity and urgency is one of the greatest levers of influence amongst human beings. Okay. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about real psychology. People's buy-in soars when you communicate this right. I've had people shadow me. They're like, dude, that's nuts seeing how the perspective's different. It's like they're almost begging you, chasing you down the street to fit you in. I can't get that unless I play the game right. My first appointment, I don't get that. My second, I'm getting closer. Third, fourth, fifth, I'm getting there. Okay. So when you start thinking in this lens, this perspective, this choice, I get, not I have to, but I get to, you start performing differently. Okay. Um, and so any setbacks, guys, that I have, I get excited about now. And that's a muscle that you develop. No matter how big a setback, I had a huge setback yesterday. 10 minutes later, I had to hop on a podcast and show up 100%. And I did. Right after that, we had two new people on this call that are welcome to the community, and I'm so ecstatic about. Right after that, I closed a deal. Okay. And then right after that, I went to two more deals that are going to close a day. Had I let that ruin me, none of that would have happened yesterday. But because I chose to see it differently, because I've built this muscle, you guys can build this too. So when you start getting the adversity, you get the shit thrown on your plate, I want you to start getting excited and start telling yourself the mantra, it's a better story. Okay. See the story develop. Every great entrepreneur and salesperson I've seen speak on a stage has a story. Every one of them. So I'm telling you, they saw it too. When you guys can see that way, that everything goes your way and you live that mantra and you follow the disciplined mindset and have enthusiasm show up at every prospect and are detached, you become unstoppable. You play the game of urgency. So these things are this 1% edge, okay, that make these phenoms, these freaks, okay, that everyone looks at and say, man, they're just God's gift in sales. They're just so good. Hopefully this breaks down that's total BS. Okay. So if you guys put me in a situation where like I reset and delete everything, wipe out the cache, everything I have now and go reset, sometimes I wish I'm like, dude, I wish I could just throw on 100 pounds of fat just to like show the transformation. I started at like 180. I look decent, you know? And so that's how my mind thinks. Like, give it to me as hard as you can get. Okay. And then when you start getting excited about that, you see that these setbacks are actually setups from the big man because he's defining you, refining you faster. Okay. That divorce, all that pain was 10 years and that 10 years of refining and learning in 2 years for me. In the moment, I would tell you, oh my gosh, I wouldn't like get me out of this. I'll do anything to get out of this. Now I'll tell you, I wouldn't change a thing going back because all the learning I got from that. Okay. There's this analogy with trees, guys. As trees grow, there's rings, okay, that show the years. And the seasons that go where it's mild, there's plenty of rain, okay. There's hardly any wind, any stress on the trees. These rings grow very far apart, and the trees grow frail. And so when a storm does come, they topple. So it is the actual droughts, the wind, those storms that make these tree rings grow very close and stay tightly knit so they can weather bigger storms. I think you guys get the analogy. This applies to our job, and then it transcends the job into other areas of life. Okay. This is what builds leaders. This is our whole goal, is to build leaders out of this community and to change the way people think about salespeople and change the culture with how we win people over and win in life. We don't have to manipulate people. Okay. So now here's the other factor. When you start executing these things, it's one at a time. Okay. They implement this, but you get a new level of confidence. And as long as you don't get too egotistical and cocky, you stay level. People feel that energy is different. and you'll perform better everywhere you go as long as you can maintain that. But to maintain that, you got to keep getting mentorship from people that are better than you. Otherwise, you're going to think you're hot shit when you're not. Okay. So this is why I'm already manifesting to pay $500,000 in personal development coaching this year, because I know if I don't, I think I'm going to get, I'm going to get in my own head and think that I'm hot shit when I'm really not. And so I know I'm going to go pay to get around people that are another level, and it's going to humble my ass and teach me a lot in the process so I can show up and lead more people. Okay. Does that make sense, guys? We're going to pause that and open up for Q&A. It does not have to be tailored to perspective, adversity, momentum, KPIs, empathy. It does not. If it does, great. But questions from anybody. We got a small group on this call, so I would love for some questions. Let's do a little Q&A. Floor is your guys's. Josh, let's end the recording too, just so we can get more people aren't pressured for asking questions.